Have you ever wondered what's the name of the boy whose lunch fed 5,000 people? We aren't told the name. In fact, there are many nameless people in the Bible. You knew not, for example, woman of the well, widow of Zarephath. So then we look at another nameless person in the Bible, called simply the Shunammite. We're told in verse 8 of our text that she was a great woman. What did it mean to be great? Some say she had a lot of money. Maybe she did. But I want to look beyond the money she had and look at her character. As I look at this text, I can see at least 5 reasons for calling her a great woman. So we start off by looking at her hospitality, verse 8. In this age that we talk about, travel is dangerous and tiring. I guess we can say it's the same today as well. It's just at the airports, for example. This woman sees a hungry traveler and constrains him to eat bread. Now, normally in that culture, people ask you to eat from them, you would decline the first invitation, what we call making silence invincible. But then they would press you and press you until you responded. So she pressed Elisha to come in and have some food at her house. But she went beyond that. Look at verse 10. She got a room specially made for the man of God. It had in a bed, a table, a stool, a lampstand. It was away from the rest of the house where he could study and pray in quiet. Another preacher understands that only too well. You are the place of peace and quiet. Elisha got that at the Shunammite's house. She was hospitable. Or the Greek hospitality is literally the love of strangers. We are called as Christians to be hospitable. Romans 12:13, to be given to hospitality. Hebrews 13:2, we are told to entertain strangers. For some have unawares entertained angels like Abraham. Genesis 18 onward. The 2 men who came to him were in fact angels. When you're hospitable, you don't just look out for your friends. You look out for the stranger. And even the church must be careful to be hospitable. In fact, elders were supposed to be given to hospitality. The church that will grow will be a church that welcomes the stranger. I recall some years ago we were in the States and we were looking for a church to go. We used to go to some place and we were there for a couple of weeks and nobody seemed to reach out to us. And we said to ourselves, we're not going back, still our visit. At that visit, 3 sisters reached out to us. There's one called Sharon, one called Irene, and the third I remember. But they were the ones who reached out to us. And that kept us at the church, and we stayed there for some time in the States. It's important to be hospitable. You see, you are looking beyond your narrow interest. Looking up for somebody else. Philippians 2 verse 4 says that was. That is greatness. Because normally it's all about me. But when you think of somebody else, then that's great. We are living in an age of selfishness, where it's all about ourselves. We are inner focus. That we can come on this country, happy birthday to me. That's what's happening today. So when somebody goes beyond that, looks out for the stranger, the outcast. That is great. And here's a Shunammite, this woman who is hospitable. She reaches out to the man of God traveling to an area. That makes her a great person. Secondly, I see this woman discernment. She says, I perceive, I have come to know, I understand that this is a holy man of God. A discerning person has insight, and as a result, makes good choices. The Shunammite called Elisha a holy man of God. He was passing by regularly. She observed him and came to the right conclusion. Yes, this is a holy man of God. You see, it's important to be hospitable, but make sure you also are discerning. For you see, we are living in an age of counterfeiting. I remember clearly as in Barbados some years ago at my nephew's wedding. I found the perfect spot for a photo next to a huge anchor. As I got to the anchor, I heard a hollow sound. That huge anchor was made of plastic. A plastic anchor is disappointing to us. But a wolf in sheep's clothing is deadly. And so we need to be very careful to look at those who come to us. For they come making such noises that can draw you in. They might look for a while as if they are sheep, but they are wolves. And these people have to enter homes. 2 Timothy 3 verse 6 tells us, they lead captive silly women or little women of spiritual weight. And nowadays, you don't have to come to your home physically. They can come in by the TV and the internet. And so you need to be very careful. When you are a great woman, you won't drop your guard because somebody brings the Bible or talks God talk. You want to test the spirits and make sure you can say as she did, this is a man of God. Those who work at the bank are trained to recognize what is good money. So when the bad one shows up, they reject it. The Shunammite, she understood what was genuine. Discernment characterized her. That made her a great woman. Thirdly, we see in the Shunammite submission. She recognized authority and is willing to yield to it. Now, based on what we read in the account before us, she was more mature spiritually than her husband. He, for example, was talking about new moon and Sabbath. She understood that God is not a seasonal God, He's God all the time. He didn't understand that. But though she's more mature than he is, or in fact, because of that, she does not lord it over him. So, verse 9, she gives information. I perceive this is the holy man of God. Now, if he accepts that as true, he's more likely to then respond to her positively. And she makes the suggestion, let us, I pray thee, make a little chamber. He did not say, for example, the Lord told me to build a chamber for the man of God. He did not say, I'm going to build a chamber. He made it clear he required his consent and cooperation. She was honoring him as the head of the home. A truly great woman understands her role in God's economy. And by grace, I say by grace because you see, obeying God requires grace. Things go against the grain, against our natural inclinations. By God's grace, she will fulfill her role. It takes greatness to submit to one's husband in obedience to God, as the Bible says. Submission requires humility. We got to humble ourselves to submit to anybody. And it is humility that makes a person great in the sight of God. Matthew 18 from verse 1 to 4. While the fighter who's to be greatest, drops a child in the midst and says, you want to be great? Humble yourself as a little child. That is what makes you great in God's kingdom. Shunammite was humble enough to let her husband know she got his consent that she might build that room for Elijah. He didn't start building it. I recall one person who was trying to modify something at her house. Husband was not in Finland at the time. And she started to modify. So she reasoned. When he comes home, you'd find a done deal. God, you it done. Well, as far as I know about men, men don't like done deals. It undermines the authority of men. Shunammite didn't start doing it. She recognized headship. You know, as I think of the Shunammite, I think about a sister who reached out to me some years ago when I was in distress. And when I check it out, her husband was with her every step of the way. She didn't just sit on her own. He was there with her, ministering to me. That's true greatness. As you understand on your plate, trusting God to make a way. And God made a way for the Shunammite. Husband agreed, and the room was built for Elisha. The fourth thing I see in our text is contentment. So Elisha is saying, she has done so much for us. What can we do for her? Maybe we can get her to the king's court. Maybe her husband can have a place in the army, but we can do something for them. It's like a chance he was offering them to move to the big city, because Shunem was a small village. So here's a chance to move up in life. Her response was classic. I dwell among my own people. I am happy staying here with my people. I don't want to go to the king's court. I have a role to play here, and I will stay here and play my role. That is true greatness. You see, there are many Christians, maybe too many Christians today, who are so bent on upgrading, on moving up in life, as we call it, that they let go of their moral standards and also lose their peace of mind. You see, they end up in places where they do wrong things or condone wrong things to keep the sweets coming. They don't seem to understand that great gain comes from godliness with contentment. And so the progress that they make comes with sorrow. Here's what the word of God says. Proverbs 10:22. The blessing of God maketh rich. He adds no sorrow with it. When God blesses you, puts you somewhere, there's no pain and sorrow with that. It's when you want to push yourself and try to get this, get that, when the trouble comes. Now, Elisha, I believe, meant well, trying to give her something. But a person to make you orphans don't mean well. Devil has many tricks. And he will set you up, put you somewhere to pull you down. And we need to understand that and be willing to stay where we are and function and make a difference and not just try to upgrade and end up messing ourselves up. You don't accept every offer that's made to you. That's what I'm trying to say. You weigh the thing and see if this advancement will cost something that you don't want to let go of, something good. The Shunammite was happy to dwell with her own people. That, to me, is contentment, and that's great. The final thing I want to talk about, this is the climax really to what we're sharing. She was a woman of faith. And if nothing else at all, this is what makes her a great woman. Hebrews 11 is often called the faith chapter in the Bible. There are people mentioned there from different backgrounds, with different experiences, but they had one thing in common. They were people of faith. They believed God and they saw him work in their lives. This nameless woman was one of those. But we're told in Hebrews 11:35, woman received their death raised to life again. She was one such woman. What do we see in our text that tells us she had faith? Number one, verse 21 of 2 Kings 4. She laid a child in the man of God's bed. Now, normally in that time, you died today, you are buried today. They didn't put you up. She wasn't planning a funeral. She put the child on the man of God's bed. She was saying to herself, God will give me a son like this and was taken back to school. She expected him to be raised again. Like Abraham, who said, we're going to go yonder and worship and come again to you. You see, when you have faith, you expect great things from God. You believe he can do way beyond what you can ask or think. So she put the child on the bed. Then she went for the man of God. She traveled about 60 miles by donkey to find the man of God. She knew he could help her, so she was willing to make a journey. You see, when you have faith, you will do what's required to get your answers. So in Mark 2 from verse 45, where it talks of the men who brought their friend to the Lord, and there was this big crowd, they couldn't get into the door, they broke the roof. And it says, when Jesus saw their faith, nothing happened to the roof. He saw their faith. Because faith finds a way to get past obstacles. So the husband says, where are you going today? It is not the moon. It is not the Sabbath. She says, it is well. or literally peace. Faith will not be stopped. Take Bartimaeus, Mark 10, verse 47 onwards. He cries out, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. The crowd says, shut up. What does he do? He cries more loudly. That's what faith does. You will not be stopped by anybody. You went the distance. Thirdly, verse 26. I should ask that question. Is it well with your husband? Well with your child? She answered, it is well. Beloved, at this time, the child was dead. You see, faith looks beyond the present situation towards God's intervention. Faith is saying, what is now is not forever. So even though my child is dead, it is well, because God reigns. Habakkuk could talk about the fig tree not blossoming, no fruit on the vine, everything crashed to the sea. Yet will I rejoice in the Lord. We sang this morning, when your life is nice and sweet, sing praises. Right? I think you're awake. Troubles in the life, sing praises. It is well because God is in control. That's what faith will see. And so in the midst of all distress and of pain, you could say it is well. Because our God reigns. That is faith. Then verse 30. She refused to let go of the man of God. She went to him. She said, I am not going to leave you. I'm going to hold on. You see, when you have faith, you understand that the answer is God and nobody else. So you hold on. John chapter 6. When people are leaving the Lord, he says to Peter and the others, will you also go away? What does Peter say? Lord, to whom shall we go? There's nobody else to go to. You know, sometimes we have challenges in life, and somebody says, why don't you want to check that woman over there, check this one there, you know, fix you up. When you have faith, you look to God, and God will hold on. Jacob would say, I will not let you go until you bless me. That is what faith does. Shunammite held on, and in the end, she got her son back. She could rejoice in the fact that his son she had lost had been brought back to life. Faith can rejoice in victories. You trust the Lord, he will make a way for you. Woman of faith she was, a great woman. So what makes a person great? Is it the money you have? Is it the titles you can assume? Is it the number of fans you have or followers online? I think the answer we can get from the text, none of the above. To be great is to show hospitality, to be open to the stranger, to look beyond your own narrow interests. To be great is to have discernment. You can spot the fake. To open your arms to a wolf. To be great is to practice submission. Humble yourself and play your role as God has outlined it for you. Don't follow what's in the culture. Follow the Bible. The great is to live in contentment. To be happy with what you have not trying to get to the point where you miss out on what's really important. And to be great is to be a person of faith. That's the key, trusting God, believing that God is, and you all then seek Him diligently. These qualities come out of a personal walk with God. They don't just happen like that to you. Philippians 2:13 tells us that God works in us to will and to do His good pleasure. So as you draw closer to God and God works in you, these things are going to flow. They don't happen just like that. Paul says, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. That's the key to greatness. And I'm convinced this country of ours needs some great women and men as well. Are you willing to be one of those persons? Last time I think I was here, the challenge came, who's on the Lord's side? Same idea here. Who will stand up on that great morning simplicity, showing the qualities that the Shunammite displayed? Don't know her name, but her legacy is there for us today. For at the end of the day, it is not fame that will count, but faithfulness. When God says to us, well done, thou good and faithful servant. Amen.